been working on a accelerator board for the 8-bit Atari, have we? Been working on that for quite some time. Been working on that for 14 years. Working on a little firmware update. Testing the hardware with the most popular available memory upgrade to make sure everything works properly. Fixing firmware issues. Overclocking the CPU to 20 MHz. Well, I look forward to installing it. Hi. We are still working on this Rapidus 800XL. I think at the end of the last video we had encountered some issues with cartridges. The machine wouldn't run cartridges at all, and I did a little bit of off-camera work on this over the weekend because it was just going to be too long and drawn out really to put you through all that torment. So I found out a few interesting things. I'll show you on camera. One of the things I discovered just set up the restream chat. In fact, I'll start it up again. Okay, one of the I'm going to have to take this apart just to show you. One of the things I discovered, and this is a fairly common issue, and it's something worth mentioning, with VBXE boards, or certainly the latest generation of VBXE boards, is that if you have a look at the adapter here, you're not going to be able to see this at all, but I'll try. I'll just calibrate the exposure on this camera a wee little bit, because I think the light's changed a little. Oh well, it's still good. Okay, there we are. We've focused now. You can actually see on the camera, just looking dead ahead at the adapter, that it is not entirely straight. It's got a I had it in focus, now it's gone out of focus. Come on, get in focus again. Come on. Come on. Come on. There we are. There we are. So you see it dip, well, because it's upside down, it rises up just fractionally in the middle because the board is a little bit warped. If we can, that's not going to work, is it? Can get it to focus. Yeah. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. You can just see I'm talking about a half a millimeter or so. It just dips in the middle. Now the upshot of this is that it doesn't necessarily sit flat in the socket that you've put on the board where the antic chip is. These outer pins will tend to sit a little bit higher, and the other issue with this is that you often get too much solder. What's the board's use? It's a modern add-on board. Yeah, that's right. It's this particular, the one I'm waving in front of the camera at the moment, is it's a graphics card. Effectively, it implements the GTI chip in an FPGA, and the antic chip, which is the other graphics processor on the Atari, sits in the adapter. So where this chip would have sat in a socket or directly on the motherboard, we've got this adapter sandwiched in between the two. And these adapters, they have the dual issue of being a tiny little bit, they're not quite true, a tiny little warp in them often, and too much solder on the legs. So the cartridge issue, the issue of cartridges not working on this machine, was traced to this adapter. So I'm supposing we could develop some homebrew with better graphics and perhaps hooked to HDMI. Yeah, well, this thing, the VBXE outputs it outputs 15 kilohertz RGB, which is what more or less what your Atari ST used to put out. You can convert that signal to VGA pretty easily. I haven't tried HDMI, but I understand it's possible. Obviously, the next generation of graphics update for these kind of machines is probably going to is probably going to output HDMI, I would have thought, because it's getting increasingly difficult to find displays that will actually work with 15 kilohertz RGB video. So I cleaned off the bottom of this adapter and messed on with it a little bit and cleaned it and wicked it a bit, and once it was sitting reasonably flush in the socket, cartridges started to work again. Well, one cartridge started to work again. This Ultimate cartridge worked. This one doesn't work in this machine, so that's a little something else for us to troubleshoot at a later date. Now, in Latharek's instructions to actually install the VBXE, if you look on his site, there was this puzzling clause in the instructions which said, and I could never quite figure out why this was, that because the VBXE, the adapter ships with another socket pushed on the bottom of the adapter board to protect the pins that come out of the bottom of the adapter, and you would normally take that socket off, solder that one to your motherboard. It's a precision 40 pin socket, and that's what I've always been doing: solder the socket into the board, push the adapter into the socket. But in the installation instructions, it seems to advise that you solder the socket into the motherboard while the adapter is pushed into the socket, and I could never quite figure out why that was, but I'm almost tempted to think that it's because of this slight warp, because if the socket is pushed home nice and firmly to the bottom of the adapter, let's say there's a 0.5 millimeter deviation in the level of the adapter, a slight curve in the adapter, if you solder the socket into the motherboard with that slight kink in it, it's going to solder in, but it's all going to even itself out, but it'll still follow the exact line of the adapter. This may be one speculation too far, but it seemed to me the only possible explanation as to why you would advocate leaving the adapter in the socket when you solder it into the board. I don't know, I might be wrong, I don't know. So the next issue that I encountered with this machine was that it would reboot when I press system reset in 6502 mode with the Rapidus up and running. I'll plug a keyboard into this machine and we'll recap over what's been going on. It's going to be a fairly quick stream tonight because frankly it's too hot to be in, and it's a bank holiday tomorrow, and I think I'm going to go out and get me some fresh air and probably a little bit of alcohol in an hour or so. But in the meantime, I just wanted to go over these few points. So let's power the machine up. And I still haven't hooked up two monitors with this streaming setup. Okay. And there I am in the corner. Make me a bit smaller. Improve the aesthetics of the stream beyond description. You can see we've got color on this machine now. It was black and white the last time. If you need to know how to add color to a stock 800 XL, I I shall quick and easy, I think it is. So yeah, desktop. If you Google 800XL, Atari 800XL quick and easy, it will take you to the Atari Age forum, and it will take you to Brian's topic, which describes a quick and easy video upgrade for the 800XL. And the key point here is the missing chroma output. Atari didn't bother to rig up the chroma, the color, on the monitor jack. You can get composite video out of the monitor jack on a stock machine, but not YC video, which is basically S video. So the bit of interest is on the bottom of the board, solder a 100 ohm resistor, the junction of R67 and R68. These two adjacent resistors run left to right, and their junction is on the left when looking at the top of the board. So that's what you need to do, and that's all I've done on this machine. Nothing more complicated than that. Let's change the scene. So if I quickly hold up this board and I'll show you what I did. God. Can we see this? No, I think I'll have to unplug the thing. I'll show you that later on. So let's get back to our, which I appear to have, there we go. Must have messed something up. So the machine is booting here. The machine is now in 6502 mode. So the 65816 processor is not utilized. We're running at 1.7 megahertz as per a stock machine. Now the problem with the machine was that when I pressed the system reset key, it would either hang or reboot. Now the one suggested fix for this, which I will show you, one suggested fix is this modification, which is I'm not any kind of authority in electronics, but to say the least. But this is the external select line on the motherboard with a 3K pull-up resistor to 5 volts, and the suggested modification is a 22 picofarad capacitor between 5 volts and external select, and a 68 ohm resistor traveling to external select on the Rapidus board. And I'm assuming that this is basically to clean up the external select signal. I'm assuming it's some sort of filter. It's not a pull-up. So I applied this fix to the board, and it did nothing to improve the issue of the machine hanging on reset, and then about the third press of reset it would spontaneously reboot. Now I've seen exactly this issue before when I attempted to install a Rapidus in my 1200XL, the Rapidus that Atari sent out last year, around about this time last year. And that was one of the main issues that we saw, was spontaneous restarts. Other problems we saw with, particularly on Ultimate 1 megabyte machines, was BIOS corruption and all kind of address line issues. So the next thing I tried on this board was a low value capacitor between A14 and ground on the MMU, because the Ultimate 1 megabyte takes it has a connection to A14 via the MMU socket, and I tried that. That was suggested by Joey Z from Atari Age, the Atari Age forum, because he'd had some troubleshooting experience with the Rapidus as well. And I tried that. Today, I think it was, and that didn't make any difference to this reset issue either. So what I eventually did, and I'm going to press reset now and hope that it still works, and it probably won't, knowing my luck. And it has rebooted just as it did before, which is marvelous. It kind of makes a mockery of what I eventually did with this machine. What I eventually did, which I'll show you, and it appeared to work at first. This, I'll turn the machine off, take the keyboard out. And this is something that had kind of worked in the past. I did this. So that, I can't even remember the value of that resistor array, but that is a pull-up resistor on A0 to A7 under the CPU socket. And the supposition there was that we're seeing some problems with the address lines owing to all of this ribbon cable on the board, and that appeared to work earlier on today. That appeared to work, and excitement prevailed as a result. But now, I don't know whether there's been a change in temperature or I don't know what, but when we switch on, how about I plug the keyboard in first? I am now very, very pleased that I decided that we're going to keep this short. Okay, so here we are, we're booting into Spartados X. I'm going to press reset, and it works. Reset as we would hope. So these are the results I got with the pull-up resistor on A0 to A7. Still working. Still working. So let's hop into the ultimate BIOS, which is now in glorious color. Still hasn't been upgraded to the alt BIOS. And let's just move around a little bit and see how it goes. I'll reboot the machine again. This is a soft restart. Now again, press reset, see what happens, and ooh, doesn't look good. It's hung again, and it's rebooted again. Oh, God. It's just depressing. It is just depressing. And bear in mind that if, just to prove that I'm not making this up, we don't even have to remove Rapidus from the board physically. We'll just deactivate it by removing this three-way header. Reboot the machine. Right, reboot. Press reset. Press reset. Press reset. Press reset. Hop into the BIOS. Everything working very nicely. Let's reboot the machine again. press reset, and again, and again, and again, and there's absolutely no problem. So it's fair to assume that there's nothing else wrong with the machine, he said as he knocked the Rapidus board and crashed it. So that's a disappointment. That is a great disappointment. Because I hoped that we were just about ready to button this one up, but it seems we're not. So probably the best thing I can do is go away and try some different things. We've already replaced 74LS08 in this board. We've already done the external select modification on this board. We've already tried pull-up resistors on the address lines on this board. We've already tried different CPUs. And the only thing that really makes the machine behave in a stable and predictable fashion is to unplug this header. The only thing that I'm a little bit concerned about is that this board has the latest firmware on it. So what I may do is solder the header that's missing on this board and apply a firmware update to it and see if that makes any difference. And aside from that, it's just going to be the same old miserable experience that we're used to. So with that in mind, and because it's becoming increasingly hot in this room, and because this video was supposed to be just an exciting sort of this is the fix and it works, and I've been under the impression that it worked since I put these pull-ups on the board, and it doesn't really fix the problem at all. I think I'll go away and look into it a little bit more, because I'll be going out shortly anyway. So sorry it was so short, and sorry the outcome wasn't as expected. So we will continue in the next video, and thanks for watching, and bye bye for now.